All right, guys. So we had some dilution from David Mickery, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it. Basically, he has like 8 million shares, or he had 8 million shares, and he just sold 750,000 of them on Monday. Insiders are required to report anytime that they sell within 48 hours. So, like, if he sold more on Tuesday and Wednesday, then we'll find out tomorrow and Friday. But the week before this, which was after the dilution news that we already had, we know that retail owns whatever the float is. And so when institutionals went from 3 million shares to 8 million shares last week, that's 5 million shares added from the dilution that they're able to dilute. So, I mean, that's always good news. They're obviously just loading up so that they can control the squeeze once it does happen. Like, those are the institutional banks that will be handling this process. But when David Mickery sells $750,000, that's just retail dilution. I mean, it's either retail dilution or institutional. Those are the only options. And so, for me, it's just retail diluting. The CEO that was the CEO before Ryan Cohen of GameStop, the stock fell all the way down to $40, and he diluted and sold out 100% of his GameStop shares to retail, and then it ran straight to $200 in 2 days. He knew it was going to happen, but like, insiders are used at the chopping block to sell before a squeeze happens. Now, with David Mickery's case, I think that they're holding on to more of the dilution shares and making him sell some of his shares because the squeeze is probably coming very soon. But also, MULN hasn't got any money out of this 300 million shares of dilution. Like, if they sell all 200 million shares right now that they have left, and they only raise $200 million with that, I mean, there's no way to run a business that way. And so I think they're going to pocket a couple $1 billion once it hits $20 or so, and maybe more. And if we go back to AMC, May, let's say 12th to like May 17th, Wanda sold 30 million shares. That Monday comes, I think it was May 20th, and that Monday comes, and in the next 6 days, AMC was up 500% on its shares. And Wanda just sold in that last week 30 million shares at an average of $14 a price. So they took $450 million when they could have let it run to 72 and then dilute, or then cash out and make a couple $1 billion. But why don't they do that? It's because it's not about the money for them. For them, it's about controlling the markets. Like, to companies like this, $1 billion doesn't mean anything. To people like this, $1 billion doesn't mean anything. Their lives are all perfect. None of them need or want anything in their whole life. So, we saw it with GME, we saw it with AMC, now we're seeing it with MULN, and there's just, like, because they used the warrants early, and they did the cashless exercise, like, there's already, like, a posting on lines of, like, at least 50 million of the warrants were exercised. And there should only be, like, 60 million of them. I thought it was maybe even less than that, but that's not important. Like, who knows how they're messing with those numbers. But what is important is that, like, David Mickery is the only person left in the company to sell shares. Now, when AMC squoze from $12 to $72, all the lower level management cashed out anywhere between $30 and $60, and it ran all the way to 72. And so the lower level management, they're allowed to participate in the squeeze. And I'm not saying David Mickery will sell all of his shares, because this is a little bit different. Like, this is a brand new company. This is his company. And so I'm sure he's not going to sell all of his shares, but they're clearly wanting to sell some of his shares rather than dilute from the bucket. And he doesn't have that many shares. I mean, he's got 8 million shares. So if they're not willing to dilute from the bucket anymore, and he's only got 8 million shares, And that was on Monday. Like, Tuesday and Wednesday has happened. Thursday, Friday, tomorrow. This 8 million could be the last 8 million. I'm always bullish, people. Like, you're never going to find a way to turn some news into a negative. They could come out and say their battery is having complications in the test and not meeting expectations, and they got to rediscover the technology. It wouldn't change a damn thing in my mind. Retail ain't walking. They never walk, people. They're in at a good price, and it's going way, way up. So, yeah. That's just my thoughts on David McRae filing that he sold 750,000 shares on Monday. And we held up the $1 as they were selling, so that's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right, good luck, people.